Welcome to the 26th episode in the martial arts poetry series. In this video, as you can see, I have a broadsword, or a wooden one. So we're going to be talking about a poetry that's related to broadsword Chinese Dao. So the poetry is called Tiger Tail. Now the Tiger Tail is known, there's like Tiger Tail broadsword forms, but it's all based on a principle around the Dao. And this principle can be categorized in two different ways. One is in quality of movement, and one is in quality of application. So first we'll cover quality of movement. So Tiger Tail broadsword, what does that mean? Basically the idea is that your Dao is the tail of a tiger. Your body is the tiger. So this means that the Dao is not going to be moving itself. It's not going to be moving independently, and it's not going to be the first thing that moves either. The first thing that moves is the torso of the tiger. So the torso of the tiger, of course, is your torso. So as you do movements, you're going to use your torso to whip the sword around as if you were a tiger running through the plains. And as it moves, right, the torso moves first, the tail follows and trails behind. So that's how you want to look at the quality of Dao movements. The Dao is being moved by the body. It's being whipped through by the body. So movements like this, right? It's all about getting the body to engage first. The body engages and the Dao is whipped behind. So there's a kind of a short delay, not like a big long one where you see a big wind up like that, but it's like the idea that this starts to move and then this starts to move and then everything else starts to move. It's all in a whipped fashion. So if I exaggerate it, you can see the body moves first and the Dao follows behind. So that's the kind of quality that's trying to get at. And what that does is it basically gets more of the body engaged in the movement, which means your movements are going to cut more deeply and have a lot more force behind them. And this is good, especially when you consider like armor or something like that. Not all Dao is assuming that you're fighting an unarmored opponent. So with armor on, you have to consider, I need to not only be able to cut into the crevices of the armor, but if you happen to miss, right, you want to at least let this bludgeon onto their armor, give them something like knocking on them, more things to think about. So it's not just, brush off, I don't have to think about that anymore. You want every hit to hit hard. But mostly, of course, aiming for the crevices so you're not wasting your technique. But in the event that you do end up hitting the armor, you want it to hit with some sort of force. And of course, with anything else, even without armor on, the cut should still be powered by the body. So as you cut, it will cut deeper and it will power through more. So if they happen to block and their block wasn't quite structured enough, you can drive through their block, less problem. So that's about the quality of the movement for the Tiger Tail poetry. Now for the quality of application, we look at it a little bit differently. Whereas one was the Dao is a tiger's tail and is being whipped behind. With this, the idea of application is more of an intent, more of how you're flavoring your application behind it. So instead of trading blows, right, like you kind of do like Hollywood movie type of trading blows, you want to think more like a tiger. I specifically imagined this kind of imagery. There's a tiger and you're behind him and you grab his tail. Is that tiger going to do a lot of like cool tricks to try and get you out of his tail, like as if somebody had their wrist grabbed and they're going to use a wrist escape? No, the tiger's just going to turn and he's going to leap on you and eat you. That's how you want to look at the Dao as far as application goes. I'm not dueling in the way that like movies portray where we're trading blows. No, it's you're running at them and you're trying to jam this into them and then, eat them, as the poetry would suggest. But of course, in our case, we're not cannibals, unless you are, but no judging there. But anyway, it's all about the flavor of application and the aggressiveness of the Dao. I like to always contrast the Dao to the Jian, the Chinese straight sword with two edges. The Jian is more akin to like a cloud. So when you try to attack the cloud, right, you go right through it. It's mist, it's cloud, you're not going to hit anything. But then the attacks happen from within the cloud, and you get cut and you don't really know what happened. It's less of an aggressive way and more of a evasive, mysterious sort of movement. Whereas the Dao is, again, you grab that tiger's tail, that tiger's just going to leap on you. Like typically, like you get your standard military broadsword, you get your couple days of training, you get your basic techniques. It's like, all right, now go fight for our country, right? So it's very much make up for what you lack in skill and training with aggressiveness. Not to say that it doesn't take a lot of skill or training to use this, but if we're thinking, again, military, you get a couple days to train, now go fight, right? You make up for that lack of skill and training with the aggressiveness, because anybody who's ever sparred or fought with an opponent who's very aggressive, and it was your first time meeting a very aggressive opponent, you of course know how scary it is, even if with an unskilled opponent, just how that aggressiveness kind of changes the flow of combat and can become very scary if you're not used to it. So in that same way, you're the tiger, now go maul your opponent with the Dao. So that's the idea of the tiger tail Dao having to do with the broadsword. Thank you very much.